We didn't talk about who's going to do the. Okay. Now, welcome to Minnesota Liberty Podcast. That was the first time we'd actually done that countdown, so we're going to have to work out some kinks, apparently.
Yeah.
Neither of us are like computer experts. Would you say you're a computer expert?
Expert by no means.
No,
Not
I know how to send
really
emails
novice.
sometimes. So this is, anyways. Welcome to another episode of Minnesota Liberty Podcast, sponsored by the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. I am one of your hosts, Rebecca Whiting, and with me I also have TJ Hawthorne,
Good
who's
evening.
not actually in Minnesota this evening. That is
Nope.
not your house. Where are you at?
I'm
Still,
in Sacramento tonight.
oh,
I was
see,
in Fairfield last week, and now tonight my flight's at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I'm at the hotel by the airport.
I'm curious, what's the temperature in Sacramento right now?
It's been fairly nice. I mean, relative to back home and relative to Bemidji, but it was up in the 70s, sunny this weekend. It was really nice, and we really
70s.
dealt with a little frost on the windshield. I had a Tesla rental this week, so it's really interesting to see how fast that windshield can defrost without any scraping. And they seem
Uh, yeah,
fast.
it was 20 below zero this morning when I went out to feed the pigs and the cows.
Yeah, I saw that. I feel you, and I'm not. I mean, I'm looking forward to coming home because it's coming home. I've been gone for 10 days, but
Well, I don't know. Since we're like technically doing the news, I'll just give you a quick, weather forecast officially, and that'll, makes us a more serious media outlet. Is that what, if we do
I
the
got your news. Got you.
Okay, so today, no, skip today. Today's over. Tomorrow, the high is 6 and the low is -9. And Friday, snow and 16. Saturday, 5 degrees with a low of -16. Sunday, though, high of -4.
Oh boy.
You should just stay in California.
Well, I'm actually heading. I'm heading to Georgia on Monday, so that'll be even nicer. I bet. Your old stomping grounds down
Yeah.
to Warner Robins. It's about an hour and a half south of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
fun. Hey, that's one of the perks to my job, right? That I get to take breaks during these times. And so I lived through the winters in Minnesota. And you know what? The last two winters have not been so bad, but I say that coming from a few degrees south. Uh,
yeah. I am. Well, just side notes, and then we'll go into our more serious business. But I got drove up to War Road yesterday, actually 40 miles north of War Road. Did you know there's still 40 miles north of War Road before you hit
no,
Canada?
I
There
didn't.
is. There is. That's where I was yesterday. And picked up sheep for the farm, some more sheep, and brought them back. And this morning in 20 below, I was wrestling them out of the livestock trailer and into. And did you know, like, if you wear proper clothing and I don't know, you're acclimated to the weather, I was actually sweating
You
in
know, of
20
course,
below.
it's just the exposed parts, right? And if you're working or having fun skiing, I've
Yeah,
skied
yeah.
in the mountains and it's really cold. But if you're nice and covered up and having fun, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was definitely having a lot of fun wrestling sheep. So, this evening we are talking about the surveillance state, and then one of the things that we talked about with doing on this episode was a little bit of, I don't know, preparedness, kind of like just a tidbit on it. And if you have anything that for the people that are watching that you would like us to talk about, as far as like, I don't know, things that people could do for themselves, being independent, living, more of an agorist lifestyle, prepping kinds of, topics, food preparedness, any of those things. Um, I started thinking about this a little bit this week when I went to the grocery store and I saw the price of eggs, uh, which is horrifying right now, by the way. Um, so maybe we should, if you have any questions, we can totally answer them or try at the very least.
Yeah. Hey, I'm very interested, right? And I know we talked about this many times before as far as, what folks in the suburbs or urban areas can do um, to stay prepared,
Yeah.
what I mean, for things and to be prepared. And it's definitely going to be a different preparedness when I have just this limited land or whatnot, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm really interested and I'm really excited about this spring to get my backyard looking like I live in Bemidji
Yeah.
or War Road or wherever, somewhere up there.
Well, when we have a farm now, but before we had a farm, I did everything right in the middle of a suburban or kind of slash urban home, just in the backyard. I had garden, we had chickens, I raised rabbits for meat,
Well,
and I had dairy goats, like literally all in my backyard in the middle of a city.
no kidding.
That's
That's
how I
badass.
started.
That's
It's
awesome.
possible. Yeah, I you know, I'm always of the opinion that you should just it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Heck
And
yeah.
so that's the way I approached it with having dairy goats in the middle of a city. And it worked out. We didn't get in trouble, but you gotta try to stay gray if you're gonna do something like that.
Yeah, you just don't cause any ruckus, at least not too much. And I'm sure plenty of neighbors were happy that you had this or whatever to offer for, and especially nowadays, that's the other part of what is so exciting about this agorism or what we can try and spread the greatness of this as far as, hey, you know what? Yeah, maybe there's some cackling going on in the break of dawn or whatever because the roosters or whatever. And I really don't know how much a tangent, whatever. What is the use of a rooster? Do you have to have a rooster to have laying hens? Because
Nope.
they're really there for protection, right? Or to
Well,
make health
they're
well.
for babies. That's pretty much the only use of a rooster.
Okay, okay, and then
Because
reproduction.
the eggs will get laid regardless of them being fertilized or not. But when you have a rooster, they're more likely to get fertilized, and then they'll grow chicks. But without the rooster, you just have eggs, and there's no fertilization, so you just have the yolk. That's it.
And there are plenty of quiet chickens that are not going to
Uh,
be right.
yeah, when you don't have a rooster in your flock, some of the chickens take on the role of rooster.
Oh,
So they're not going to have, you know, the entire role of the rooster, but some chickens do start taking on like the crowing and that kind of thing.
really? Okay, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
suppose if
so
it's really for a safety mechanism, at least it's something I watched a video. Some farmer that I follow is, his rooster, and make sure your chickens have a place to run. When he says, "Hey, there's a hawk inbound," then hey, take cover.
I have a rooster in the barn and he keeps his ladies. They're always close by. They always stay together.
Really?
So, yep. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, so price of eggs. I don't know what I mean, you're in California. You're probably not grocery shopping right now.
Right. Yeah.
But
So I would like to see, you know what I mean? That is something I should start doing something like that, right? While I'm out and about to try and
compare.
do some comparisons and to see what everybody's dealing with. And there's obviously also the cost of living equate, usually your wage reflects a lot of that in that area. And so that's a factor that I really don't think I can barge into people's business and say, hey, how much are you making around here? But
Right.
most of the folks I work with are government employees, are federal folks. So another little tangent, right? The proposal that Trump sent out to everyone in the federal government. I mean, that is real. I talked to a lot of folks that were like this last week, working at Air Force Base out here. Yeah, man, I was debating it and I'm thinking, yeah, I would have totally debated it too. But the thing is, their job is pretty gravy. You know what I mean? And not that I'm putting them down. They do work. The fact that these four guys that work at these four systems that I know out here, and they actually do work and they take pride in their work, but it is easy, right? And as long as you have that and keep doing it correctly and honestly, heck yeah, it's there. Had a lot of discussions with folks about wasteful government stuff and the freezing the spending and, the Chicken Little reaction of the sky is falling, I'm on God. And I'm thinking, is it not blatantly obvious that when you're freaking out about someone saying that there's corrupt spending, that you're the corrupt individual? Is it? Yeah. I don't know how I got into that from chickens, but
I don't either. Price eggs in Bemidji is $6 to $7 a dozen right now.
Good gravy.
Yeah, that is. Anyways.
And I've been eating a lot of eggs lately too, so I really want to get into this, growing my own eggs or finding.
Yeah, for a family my size, you know how many eggs we eat just in one meal?
No way.
We eat 3 dozen eggs in a meal, and that's like not, you're eating other things besides just eggs.
Sure.
We'll eat about 3 dozen eggs, about 4 pounds of bacon, and bacon is actually better priced than eggs right now. So. What do you do?
Oh, man. Well, that's
almost becoming too expensive to eat.
Things are going to start happening like that, and like you said, don't be asking for permission. Ask for forgiveness, and the asking for forgiveness with eggs or bacon or fruits or vegetables in your hand, it's probably going to get you that favor.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I just think it is. I don't know. I feel like folks are coming around to realizing that, well, we ain't shit.
I don't know. Like the food shortages that revolved around the, all the year of the, 2020, that year, all the food shortages, things that just didn't show up anymore for a while because the supply lines were broken. I really thought that was going to be enough for people to be like, oh, hey, but I mean, it wasn't. So here we are, and we're still hoping that it will be. I don't know. Maybe I'm cynical today.
It's like a little bit of the bucket spills over every time they, what we've always talked about, the ratchet effect, right? So they ratchet two liberties out and then come back with one. When normies call it a pendulum swing, but we know it's actually a ratchet where it's actually building up and killing us with 1,000 paper cuts. But yeah, I know. Again, I go on these tangents and think about these things.
So we're going to talk about the surveillance state. And there were some things that have been happening in Minnesota. There were some people who are in these political positions because they ran for those positions and got into it. So they have basically interjected themselves into Minnesota politics and should be the voice and representing the people, right? Should be, but we also, AI has taken off, especially in the last few years. Technology has really taken off in the last 20 years. And so now we're at a point where, and we shared this on our Facebook page for the party's Facebook page, that Mankato is using AI and integrating AI into law enforcement. What could possibly go wrong with that? I mean,
I guess folks don't really see it. And I promise you, it was only 5-6 years ago when I started coming around to understanding what FISA meant to, regular American citizens and stuff like that. And this is just that on that level, on that scale of intruding on your privacy at a city or state level where, all of a sudden they have all the surveillance and hey, it can do no wrong if it's very passive and they're not taking data in or doing anything like that. But the moment you say, well, we have the right to now track a stolen vehicle, and then what determines it to be a stolen vehicle? One phone call to somebody, and then so where does that lead? All of a sudden phone calls about this, and next thing you know, it's not even taking a phone call. It's, hey, I want to see what so-and-so is up to. So you track in the AI and boom, license plate comes up like some Age of Ultron crap.
Well, let me share. I'm going to share my screen really quick. And then can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to listen to.
Can you make
This
that full
video?
screen too? Hit that full screen button on that video. Maybe it'll full screen up on the.
How do I do that?
Yep.
Did that work?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So we're going to listen to this.
Talk about the fleeing provisions in the statute. In this bill, our number one priority is always public safety. We want to keep the community safe, and we want to do that by hopefully avoiding pursuits. Pursuits have some inherent risk, and if we can avoid those, we prefer to. Obviously, we want to recover stolen vehicles as well for the victims and prevent further crimes. As Representative Novotny said, oftentimes these vehicles are used to do robberies and to commit robberies, assaults, and other crimes, thefts. Just this morning, Minneapolis had a series of thefts and robberies related to a stolen vehicle with juveniles in it. We assisted them with some information about that case. One of the things that we've learned is oftentimes the people who steal the vehicles will get out of the vehicle temporarily, especially if they think the police are following them, go into a building or a business or a residence, and then come back out. And the provision in this bill that would allow us to place a GPS tracker on those unoccupied vehicles would allow us to sit back, wait for them to return to the vehicle, and apprehend the offenders, which is the best way we can to prevent further crime. I really want to talk about.
Okay. There was a lot to unpack with that.
That last part is really where I'm focused the most on.
Yeah, because he was like, well, they went into the house, and so now we're going to put a tracker on the vehicle, and then they're going to come out of the house, and so now we can track the vehicle.
I think when he was saying it was like a public place, so okay, if you're not looking for the confrontation at a public, where at some point there's got to be a confrontation, because if they just left the vehicle, there you go, there's your vehicle,
right? And I mean,
be there to place a tracker. I'm not sure I'm tracking on this on where that goes. Like, where are we going to start slapping trackers on suspected stolen vehicles? Like, because how many times? I know I've been pulled over a few times now. Granted, I think it's the fact that the cop just wanted to pull over punk kids and say, "Oh, I got a report of this same vehicle." Like, I'm pretty sure
I got pulled over before because the state patrol was like, "Oh, this a stolen vehicle," and I was like, I was actually on my way to a Joann's with my 2-year-old in a car seat in the back, and got pulled over. I was actually going under the speed limit and get pulled over. I mean, at what point? I get it. Like, your law enforcement, accidents are going to happen. And, you're not always going to maybe like, oh, well, perhaps I thought there's something going on, so I was just going to check on it. Like, that's one thing. But, creating... I'm really not comfortable with this, that they would have, while they have qualified immunity, be able to just put a tracker on somebody's vehicle. And
I'm not okay with it either. Yeah,
I'm not okay with this.
It just doesn't, to me, right there, it doesn't make any sense that if you're there and there's a vehicle, like, otherwise, is it when you're beginning a hot pursuit, you don't want to throw some Cartnarks magnet on there or something? I don't know, but
yeah. Well, and let's see because Walter Hudson had a few things to say about this.
There you go.
There we go. So the safest way to apprehend carjackers and car thieves is to track the vehicle without the criminal's knowledge. It minimizes high-speed pursuits and increases public safety and maximizes criminal justice. Every House Democrat on public safety voted against it tonight. I mean, just because the Democrats voted against something, I don't know what he's trying to
he's using the word public safety, right? And you talk about safety. How can you vote against safety? And they say this is all in the name of safety. That was what he opened up with, that sheriff or that gentleman on the video. Our first priority is safety. That's always what they say. And so how can
and then
you
they use that safety to justify taking away your rights.
There you go. 100%.
So here, let me
I think there was another video
new at this. Let me find. There was another Walter Hudson post that I thought was just so awful, and I'm going to find that really quick. Oh, here it is. I should have left that screen up. Hold on, let me put that back up because it was literally right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so our Libertarian Party in Minnesota, we know it. Anyways, he responded to us in another post. If you're not in possession of a stolen car, you have nothing to worry about. Gee, where have I heard that from?
That before.
The provision will reduce reckless pursuit, save lives, and get criminals off the street. There is literally no way to know if that would actually be the case if they pass this bill. Why do you oppose that?
The thing, what? Yeah. What do we say there?
So we responded with, when I say we, I mean Nick. If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide. Remember how those words were used against Americans at the dawn of the Patriot Act. I'm old enough to remember that. Have some foresight for all our sakes, or you're doomed to repeat the mistakes of our fathers. And then Walter Hudson, man, I've met him. I don't. Whatever.
I never personally met him. I'm getting blown away by this because everything I've heard of him for the last year and a half has been pretty darn awesome. Rather, other as a state rep, right? When October 7th came around, TC had him on his show, and it was like, oh, okay, here you go. This is exactly why we're libertarians and they're Republicans, and he's the state rep. He could stay in the state. If he wants to go to Congress, I will not support that. But he seemed to be a great state rep. And now it's like he turned.
Yeah, well, he did. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. And let's see if I can share my other screen here. He did. He's
and Matt Kowalski made a comment earlier on one of TC's posts, or maybe it was Matt's post and TC commented regardless, but
oh shoot, that's not what I wanted. Oh wait, here it is. So incredibly, this need apparently why am I it logged me out. Hold on.
Well, if you click on that link, that's the link to the Twitter. That's that video that's just a screenshot there. But that link that's on that Facebook post, on the post, will pull up the
I'm gonna find this and then I will pull it up. So
that's
we'll keep
where
talking while I find it.
it's only like a 20-second video of her saying, okay, so the car is in my house and something like that. Like, what are their rights to go into my property? And
here we go.
Great question.
I got it. Let me just. Oh man, I need somebody to do this for me. By the way, we are hiring. If you would like to be producer in this show,
hold on,
please reach out.
Hiring? Does that?
No, I'm not hiring. We're not hiring.
We're
asking for volunteers. Okay, here we go. So if I have a dead body in my fenced-in yard, does that mean law enforcement can just trample all over my property? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. I mean, you got to have.
Wow.
This is just such manipulation. If you have something that is going on in your backyard and they can't, like if there's somebody that's dying, there's going to be you can go in and help somebody not die, right? That's a little different though. But if you have like a dead body buried in your backyard, they can't just walk in and be like, we think there's a dead body here. We're going to dig this all up.
Right. Exactly. There needs to be some evidence, and yeah, no doubt. That's exactly how this gets out of hand and how racial crap gets started and all the division and the crap that The cops, man, I'll be honest. The thing is about the cops, there are plenty of good guys in law enforcement and stuff like that. So I believe that most of them wouldn't go do that stuff. But then again, I've also witnessed people that were good people become uh, drunk with the power and
Yeah.
become different people, and
Yeah.
freaking totally seen it. And so, like
Everybody
say I'm
has
not
a
one of
price.
them, huh?
Yeah. Everybody has a price. You have any time that there is money or authority involved in a position, especially to somebody who has never had money or authority before, or there's people that have had it but they crave it. It's like they pursue authority, and these are the types of people that look for these kinds of positions, like a House representative, or he's going to use this as a stepping stone to go into something else. Guarantee it.
Man, you know how many people are, on the right and on the whatever you want to label him as, because I thought he was quite small L, but I definitely don't believe that now. But I still follow him, and I see a lot of comments of, "Oh, well, you need to run for governor," and it's just
This is no. If you're going to act like a Democrat, just be a Democrat. Okay.
Yet
So
there's a
in Mankato, they passed and I don't think it was law, but they bought cameras that can use AI to track and help with law enforcement. And then these cameras are set up, and they're taking in footage or whatever it is that's going around them, and sending it to a database and saving all that footage from a database, using AI to do this. Those cameras aren't just in Mankato. I know that we also have them here in Bemidji. So if a city or a town, Bemidji's not really a city, Bemidji's a town. We've got 14,000 people, right? That's not really like city level. But if we have cameras like that in Bemidji with 14,000 people, that means, and they're also in Mankato, that means they're all over the state. You just don't know it yet.
Sure.
So Mankato has them, Bemidji has them. And by the way, those are like cities on two opposite sides of Minnesota. That means your entire metro is probably peppered with them. That means your rural towns are going to utilize this, especially, and it would be easier probably for law enforcement to get sold on this idea that they need to use AI, because a lot of times rural towns like Bemidji and Beltrami County, a lot of rural area out here. It's a very large county. And the police force and the sheriff's department's probably like, we don't have enough people to, do all these jobs. So then they're like, oh, well, we'll just use this. But there's always a cost.
Yeah.
When you take the human element out of law enforcement, right? And they started to take the human element out of law enforcement, or at least protect it with qualified immunity. Because now cops
have no accountability. Yeah.
Yeah, there's less for sure. I mean, sometimes, like in the case of like Derek Chauvin, he still went to jail, but he had to literally kill somebody on being recorded doing it.
Yeah.
So, but think about like all the times when somebody
no knock warrant stuffs, and
there's no accountability. Nobody ever got in trouble for that.
No, and there's been I've seen one where there was a video, although I don't know the result. I just saw the guy and his wife wake up. He lights a cigarette, like, what the hell's going on? He opens the door and like, what the hell? And all of a sudden gets blasted. All the cops out front of his door, and it's like the nerve, I guess. I don't know, where acting on a notion and get everybody fired up on a whole team to say, oh, this guy is who he is, and this guy is. I mean, this really is. It's the propaganda, and that's going on all over the place with getting everybody fired up on hating everybody here or hating everybody there. I feel like that's exactly what happens when a SWAT team or somebody, it's probably an FBI person that comes in and says, oh, we got news on this guy, and gets the whole police force believing that this guy is a bad guy. I don't know. their whole
Well, or they just,
all that
there's
surveillance.
a lot of stories about no-knock warrants and them getting the wrong house.
Yeah.
And like the person that died in their no-knock warrants because they weren't expecting the cops show because they didn't
Never
do
would,
anything wrong. Your hotel's calling. Actually, that's probably the deep state. You should answer it. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, like, there's all these stories of things that cops got wrong, and there's no accountability. There's no if somebody gets in trouble, it's a slap on the hand. They go on to be in another department. Maybe they get fired in their one department. They just go on to someplace else. So if there was maybe, I don't know, how do we fix this?
Well, we stop it. We make sure it doesn't happen. Although it's almost likely that it's already happened. I don't know if Robert is saying they run metadata all the time. I think that stuff.
Than just for an infraction.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is it's not just for something that went wrong. They're also running it for all the times when nobody's doing anything wrong.
Like a minority report. Yeah, like to find it. Just like, oh, I found that. Kind of like speeding light cameras and traffic cameras that are in the middle of an intersection. Although those are like recording the infraction. They have the limit switch that says you're speeding or you're in this area when you're not supposed to be. So I guess that is the infraction. But I could see what Robert's talking about is that, yeah, cameras are always there. And then you see someone changing lanes without a damn signal and tracking someone. Yeah, that's what I'm really worried about. And that's what I feel like it's going to turn into vendetta crap where, oh man, this guy slept with my wife or something, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case, or, hey, my buddy's on the police force. He has access to this shit. Just never have access. I think it's already there, though. I bet you there's a level of that surveillance that it's all over the place with the Fed. That's my tinfoil hat notion, but whatever.
Well, I mean, this is why Edward Snowden fled to Russia, right? Is because
he knew it. Yeah.
He leaked that information. He was a whistleblower for the NSA. Like, hey, they're doing this. And that's why he left. That's why they went after him. So, I mean, we've known that this stuff is happening for a long time. When are people going to be pissed off enough about this to make it stop?
There you go.
That's what I want to know.
Same.
And the people that are watching, when are you going to get pissed off enough for this to stop? For all of these things that we're seeing now, that are being our future, our children's future are being sacrificed for the
in the name of safety.
Yeah, but it's not even real. Like it's false.
It's all fake and created. It's totally created by their agenda. That was
false sense of security. That's where I'm looking for. When are people going to get pissed off enough to make this stop? Because you're trading security for a false sense of security. It's a little redundant. Anyways.
Liberty, trading your liberty for the false sense of security. That's what it is.
Anybody that would say, oh, well, the police can do whatever they want if you have stolen blah, 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 doesn't understand constitutional rights. Like, your constitutional rights are still intact, whether you are a criminal or not. And just because somebody is like, well, we think this might be happening, it doesn't even, you still have your rights. Those are first and foremost. Nobody gets to take those away from you.
Oh man, I swear I just shared a thing about Thomas Gallagher, the lawyer. He had a really awesome quote that I just shared on the thing and it didn't show up about the liberty. And now I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it. So
I follow him. Hold on, I'll find it.
Yeah, I guess I could look it up there too, but man, Robert is really having some great comments, with the private company and stuff like that, where, as a libertarian and I kind of, and he meant wallet, he definitely corrected himself, but that kind of stuff I've heard a lot of stories recently. This USAID crap that has come out has just unveiled all kinds of incentives, right? It's always about an incentive. So, hey, they created this incentive for this to happen. They created this incentive. So you throw a bunch of money at something and create this, or pay for subscriptions to a platform that nobody would normally, grassroots would normally listen to, you know what I mean? Or subscribe to. So all of a sudden their numbers are fakely inflated. And this is where the private companies use this too. And going back to the AI stuff where, hey, we can write a program that just says, hey, constantly subscribe, or create a new bot now, and then create a new bot and do this, and inflating numbers falsely. Look at everybody thinks this, and actually they doesn't. You got something?
Yeah, I just had a thought, and maybe somebody that's listening could dig into this and then bring it to us. Or I could call some people on off. I'll have time to do this. But anybody that contributes to Walter Hudson's political campaigns, that all has to be public. So it'd be very interesting to see if police unions or any law enforcement things or groups or whatever are contributing to his campaigns to help him get into the office. Because if that's the case, and he is taking money, and essentially, because everything that I'd been told about him, or what I've heard him say in some circumstances, like this is not okay. This is different. So it sounds to me like he is another compromised Republican. That's what it sounds like to me. He has sold his soul to stay in his position, and there are people paying him to say certain things, to promote certain things at the legislative level. And that means that he's no longer a man of the people. He's just another political puppet. And if you don't want to be a political puppet, stop taking money and doing what large groups of people tell you to, and just simply go back to the constitutional rights of individuals. I mean, that's all it takes.
Yeah, it does seem that way to me, that that's swift change of principle thinking, like talking very eloquently, like I can't, about liberty and things like that. When I first came on to Walter Hudson, like I guess he was a host on TCNT before, and I didn't know that. I didn't get on to listening to TCNT until COVID, and the Power Trip morning show guys started pissing me. Anyway, so when I started learning about Walter Hudson, right when he was running for state rep and he won, and he was talking a lot of great liberty stuff, and now this is absolutely opposite of that, on a different level, right? Sure, there's a law enforcement and back the blue as a Republican element that I understand. Some folks talking like that, but when you're talking on a different level so often otherwise, and then come into this, then it does seem very obvious that somebody tap on the shoulder and say, hey, you do this. And you talk about the donations and stuff. I don't know, Rebecca, those are totally public. So I think there's a different way that these folks get paid or get benefits. You know what I'm saying? That is totally under the table. And as much as I'm about under the table shit, that's just corruption. You know what I mean? So that I can't get behind, obviously, but I'm all about you selling your eggs to your neighbor under the table. But
right now, sorry, my teenager's trying to talk to me.
Right on.
Yeah, so I guess we're going full circle at this. Back to the eggs. The GOP kills every momentum they have. Yeah, honestly, I heard this a while back, and the more I pay attention, the more I'm like, I think this is true. There's something to this. That the Republicans in Minnesota They take in money, they do fundraising, and they take in a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money. They've taken a lot of money. They say they're going to, this time we're going to win. We're going to win this and we're going to win this. And it's going to be great. All these things. And they've taken a lot of money doing it. And then they don't.
They don't do it.
They don't win. When was the last time that we had a Republican governor?
Pawlenty, right?
I'm not even sure. I didn't live
He
in
was a Republican, but the more I know about him, right? And that was like the early 2000s when Republicans were smashing, just totally melding with that duopoly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they were totally for a long time. But,
I mean, we know what the Democrats are. The Democrats are just, Marxist, fascist, socialist, whatever you want to say. They're not for they claim they're for the people, but they prop up the corporate interests. They prop up the big interest groups. They love war. I mean, that's what the Democrat, they don't even hide it. The problem is that the Republicans pretend that they're for the people. They pretend they're for the little guy. That's why you see so much of like rural communities go red in Minnesota, is because people like their independence in the rural communities. But they've taken all this money and they still lose. I don't know and then they're like, oh, well, libertarians can't win anything. And that's fair. We don't win anything. But neither have the Republicans. So.
Well, they do have their state reps, I guess, right, in their areas and their, hopefully their city councils. I don't pay enough attention to any other city, but I don't even pay enough attention to my city council that I really would like to see what they're really up to, because there's so much going on. I'm trying to pay attention to the state as well. That's where I there's
a lot going on right now.
Yeah, but I'd like to know where these folks come from. I think about that a lot, like the 400 something that are in Washington, and each individual comes from this area. Maybe not each one, because there's plenty of plants out there, but
yeah.
And
we do have some updates with Defend the Guard. We haven't gotten Matt Bliss's on board, and he's still holding it up because he's the chair of the Veterans Committee in the House. He is single-handedly holding it up. So hold on, I'll put his contact information down here real quick.
Yeah, while you work on that, today one of my favorite podcasts, Good Morning Liberty, with Nate and Chuck. But just today, Nate had Dan McKnight on as a guest. The whole show was an interview with Dan, and was awesome. First, most of the episode was good talk about Defend the Guard. Nate's a great supporter, and they're about to have the Tennessee convention, and Dan and Nate will be speaking there. And Tennessee is one of the states that has pushed, has had it pass through State House one time a couple years ago. And they're talking how you're saying how, I don't know if you did mention this, but Virginia's got it through their Senate, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't mention it yet, but yes, that did.
Yeah.
So here's the challenges, and anybody that's watching right now that doesn't know what the Defend the Guard bill is, the Defend the Guard bill is, it simply says that the state in which it'd be passed, and in this case Minnesota, that the Minnesota National Guard would not be able to be used in a foreign conflict where there is combat without an official declaration of war from Congress, like the Constitution requires. So that's, the Constitution already has that. Now, and especially in since 2001, the Bush administration, they passed the authorized use of military force so that the president could essentially send the National Guards to wherever in defense, in support of, whatever conflict it was that the CIA had actually started. That's a completely different side note. Anyways, and that's how the conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan were able to keep going for as long as they did, because the active duty force by itself was not enough to keep going, especially not on two fronts, for 20 years like it happened, right? So relied very heavily on the National Guard. So the Defend the Guard bill is an opportunity for us to nullify laws that have been passed, like the authorized use of military force, and going back to the Constitution that requires there to be a congressional approval for war. And in every state which this would get passed, like in Minnesota. So the Minnesota National Guard would not be able to have gone to Iraq or Afghanistan without Congress declaring war, which just makes sense. Like if we're going to commit our troops to a 20-year conflict in which they're very likely going to lose their friends, if not their own lives in this conflict, there should be some checks and balances to ensure that we're sitting there for a really good reason. One where all the other
resources have been exhausted.
Yeah, to be able to avoid this conflict, right? So war should be the last line in that, not the first, like it has been since 2001, and arguably even before that, So that's all the Defend the Guard bill is. In Minnesota, we have the bill is written. I can't remember the number for it. It's like, actually, I have it on my thing. Hold on, I'll tell you in just a second. The bill's number is. Oh shoot! It got deleted. Hold on.
I think there was
bill number. Oh, SF 764. SF 764.
It's Weissenberg, right?
Yep. Nathan Weissenberg is one of the authors. It's got bipartisan support. It's got Democrats and Republicans having signed on to this bill. In the House doesn't have the bill. But even if they did, Matt Bliss has already stated that he's going to not even allow it time for a hearing, which doesn't make any sense because if there's a bill and he should just allow it time to go, get a fair shot and let people hear it. If you're single-handedly standing in the way of letting this bill progress, then you're acting like an authoritarian dictator, not a representative. I'm sorry.
Well, it's obvious that there's someone else pulling those strings for you. I mean, or I guess they feel like they have that power and they are happy that they can stop this. I don't know. I really don't understand that logic. It's hard to understand the logic of DTG.
Yeah, his name is down here. If you want to, you're watching right now and you want to write this down so that you can call him and be like, hey, I want the Defend the Guard bill to get hearing time in the committee. You're the chair of the committee. Please let this through, so that he feels enough pressure to do that, because it would be really terrible if I had to run for his seat because he's my representative. I don't really have time for that, but I will. If he doesn't do the right thing and act like a man of the people, not a man of the corporate interest of war.
Yeah, that's what Dan was saying. Every time this bill gets any teeth anywhere, then generals from the Army or whatever will come in. And, anybody that's been in the military knows that if you're a rank of a general, you're our politician. Even 06 or and above is just a politician for the most part. I guess there's some field colonels or whatnot, whatever you want to say, but I don't know. It feels like that is strictly just yes man for the actual politicians. And that's definitely what it's turned into and hopefully they're cleaning house. I feel like they're doing a lot more libertarian stuff than any administration I've ever seen. So I'm excited.
Yeah. The Trump administration.
Except
for the bulldozing of Gaza.
Yeah.
That will this will end up being a stain on their legacy if they go through with that.
That goes through,
and they bulldoze Gaza and build Rivieras and create thousands of jobs. It'll be great. It'll be huge. Whatever. That will mark his entire administration as being nothing more than just imperialist warmongers. That's what'll happen.
No doubt. And all that other shit, man, I don't care about, right? That's way more important. We need to not do that at all, right? Where you can talk about where I do a lot, weighing the shit in both hands, or, there's not one politician other than Ron Paul and maybe Thomas Massey that I've ever agreed with everything they said. Everything they're saying, it's like, yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. There are none. And so we as libertarians need to take the W's whenever we can, and I'm loving it. But I definitely am going to not like that, and that is going to be a mission we need to stop. And defend the guard is the best measure to stop the dumbassery of some president of America that has this idea, because it's been the way since the 70s, that we go and dictate stuff around the world when we want it. That's what we do. That needs to stop, and defend the guard is a great way to stop that madness. It really is a good way with the 10th Amendment, with our states' rights, to get that done. Hey, so what happens if we do come into something? Maybe we should talk about preparing, huh?
So prepping. I wouldn't say, I don't consider myself a prepper. But there's this is the way people used to live back in the day, before the convenience of like grocery stores, and I don't know, like somebody could just show up to your front door and deliver whatever. You drive up, and it's just, we live in an age where everything is expedited and super easy and quick and fast and cheap.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and that's not the way it used to be, right? It used to be that you spent your spring and summer and fall getting ready for winter. Because if you didn't, you were going to go very hungry and be very cold through winter, and so like this idea of that, you don't have to, you only keep enough food in your pantry for the next couple of meals. You don't really have to think ahead. To me, it's created this another false sense of security, because of the way our lifestyles are. Now, if something happens, we have a grid down situation. We have supply lines that have been broken. Any of those things occur, we have a very fragile system that we exist in. And because we live in a fragile system that we've existed in for generations, people lack the skills to be able to make it through tough times. And when people lack the skills to be able to make it through tough times, it only takes a few days, when something big does happen, where people start to get desperate, and panic starts to set in, because they don't know what to do, and B, they don't have the resources to do it, and 3, even if they did, they don't have the knowledge of where to start, right? So that's something like for us. So I don't consider myself a prepper necessarily, but more of like a traditionalist in that manner. So we have the farm, we raise a lot of our own meat. I have dairy cows, we have pigs, chickens. I only buy in bulk, and then I make from scratch. So I bake our own bread, all of those things. But we also have a large family. And I live in rural Minnesota. So like trying to get to a grocery store for me, it takes a little bit more planning than it does for somebody like in the metro, where, you literally are just around how long does it take you to get to a grocery store from where you live?
Which one? Yeah, depends on depends on where we want to make a Target order and just drive right up, and then they throw it right in the back of my car, or right across the street there's Hy-Vee or Cub. No, there's endless options 5 minutes away, not even.
Okay, so it's not 5 minutes for me. It's a bit more than that. But, we have in Bemidji, we're the largest town kind of centrally in the northern half of the state. We have the only Walmart within an hour in every direction. So if you live in some directions 2 or 3 hours, like it depends.
What about a Fleet Farm or something up there, or like a Harbor Freight, or what kind of fleet?
We just got a Harbor Freight, actually. That was it's a small one, I think, but it's Harbor Freight. So we have a Harbor Freight. We have Walmarts and Target. We don't have a big Target. It's a small one. We just gotten Aldi's in the last couple of years, but it's a small one. We have a fleet. It's an L&M fleet. It's not a Fleet Farm. It's more local. So they're not, it's not a huge business. So anyways, like all these supplies and everything, they're just, I mean, we're just going to travel farther to get to them.
And those are, again, they rely on supply chains or their resources as well. So there's ways that a lot of that can be gone quickly, especially when the grocery stores I have access to. And every time I do go in, the first thing is the produce. And you see all this fresh produce, and you walk into every single grocery store in the Twin Cities, and they all have that. It blows my mind that there's that much. And this is just the Twin Cities, or, think of every grocery store in every suburban area.
Well, here's the thing, and this is the way, because we do like farming and agriculture stuff, so, and I'm really into like localized farming. So yeah. I'm a big advocate for local farms, local produce, anything that you can do that's within your, your little bubble.
Yeah. Community.
Yeah, because it helps keep the, the money in your community. You're helping support each other. And I think that once you have these food initiatives that are in your community that are up and going by supporting the local farms, because there are people that just naturally want to do it, like myself. Like I just will never be without my cows. I am going to always have cows. And there are other people that like me that just, they really like what, they just can't not grow a garden, So supporting those people helps promote the local foods. It helps strengthen your community because you're not relying on a centralized agriculture like that we have in the United States. So a lot of the produce that you see that's in your grocery stores is from California or Arizona or Mexico.
Or Chile or whatever. Yeah.
So North Dakota, huge agriculture, huge farming community, but they're growing corn and soybeans.
Yeah.
You do not want to eat those corn and soybeans.
Oh.
So like this isn't, so even like farming communities can be food deserts, which is
no doubt. No, that's a great, wonderful point, actually, to think about that you drive through Iowa or lots of Minnesota and lots of the Dakotas. Now, I don't know, there's a lot of the wheat fields in the Dakotas and whatnot, and I'm sure that, but the corn and endless soy and corn fields are literally just going for like feed of this or whatever, or create the.
Yeah, corn is used in a lot. Corn, anytime you look on like a boxed food, cereal, barbecue sauce, ketchup, anything, you look on the label, it says high fructose corn syrup. That's made with corn.
Yeah.
That corn is utilized and created into high fructose corn syrup and made in a laboratory and stuffed into your food. So it's just, anyways, that's one of the things that we avoid. And so a lot of, like the way that we operate and just kind of trying to go back to a more traditional system is by getting rid of the unsustainable byproducts of food like high fructose corn syrup that are just really terrible for you because your body doesn't know what to do with it. And so it stores high fructose corn syrup as fat, not energy, because it's not a real food. Your body did not evolve into what it is to be able to recognize that. And so it can't absorb it very well. It's very bad for you.
Yes. And it's in everything.
It is an absolute area. You got to be very careful. So that's one reason why we, so like for us, this was a process. We started trying to get rid of certain types of ingredients because recognize that, GMO corn and everything we ate was probably bad for us. So getting rid of high fructose corn syrup means that 90% of what they sell at a grocery store, I don't buy, you know, but then you have to replace that with something. So then you go to learn from cooking from scratch. And that's what I did. I just started buying cookbooks and teaching myself how to cook. This was not how I grew up. So if people are like, oh, I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up like that either. My mom, they cooked everything out of a box meal or we ate out.
My dad and I, we had Pizza Hut boxes stacked in our apartment, man. It was unreal. We were very, very unhealthy.
Yeah. And I did not want to give that kind of a future to my kids. And so,
I don't have anything against my old man though, that we were single bachelor guys and that just we were happy. Shit.
Well, and information that's out today wasn't out in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Right.
Like this was just, there wasn't, you couldn't just Google search what the negative effects of high fructose corn syrup are. You know what I mean? You couldn't do that.
The effing food pyramid told us that pizza actually had everything, and the most freaking carbs and everything was all right there on pizza.
That government nutrition program. Yeah. So anyways, going into so I don't consider myself, I would consider myself like not a prepper, but more of a traditionalist in trying to go back into the old ways of doing things, cooking from scratch, eating from scratch, growing, preparing, making, producing our own food, canning it, drying it. I don't like freezing things because I don't like using the electricity. So canning and preserving and drying are the way that I like to do things the best, or storing dried foods. I'm more likely to do that. But in today's age, it doesn't take a lot of space for you to be able to keep chickens in your backyard.
Right.
And chickens are a natural community bird, so you should always have more than one together. 4 is a good number. And I think a lot of even places that have provisions where in neighborhoods where you can have chickens, but you can only have 4. 4 just generally seems like what the number is. Each bird that you raise has to have 4 square feet of living space. So if you have 4 birds, you can have a 4x4, size chicken house or chicken coop. And that's all you need, 4x4 feet. That's not that much. That ends up being 16 square feet. And for 4 birds, that's enough. Dang, and then every bird will lay 1 egg every 25 hours. So every once in a while, they take a break. It depends on, temperature and sunshine. In these dark, cold days, you get less eggs. But they're putting their energy into staying warm and less energy into laying eggs. But the chicken, I think, is what is it? When you're, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're getting into something, it's the gateway drug.
Yes.
Farming chickens are. No,
I've seen a lot of folks, followed their transition into, I got chickens. Next thing you know, I have this, and next thing you know, I have this, and I would love to go down that road.
Yeah, well, I think it is just a natural state of being human to want to provide for yourself. So that's just because people did this for so long.
Makes sense. That's the meaning, right? Have meaning, and that's it, right? And that's life, liberty, and the pursuit of meaning. That's actually a great one right there.
Be free, raise chickens.
Yeah.
Especially in today's, eggs are just so expensive. I went to a grocery store to get groceries. I just saw the price of eggs. I almost started crying. This is just depressing. This is depressing. Does anybody else see this? This is depressing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think everybody's reacting to it, but in their own ways, right? Because a lot of folks on the right don't want to say that it's going up. No, there's Trump, but all the folks on the left are loving that it's going up because Trump and whatever. And this is.
Well, here's the thing. And anybody that's been watching the news has perhaps seen the hysterical, lines. The bird flu this, and they've literally are culling 20 million birds a quarter. So every 3 months, they've just, and this is what happens. You don't have to have a confirmed case of bird flu for the USDA or the Department of Ag or whoever it is to come in and kill off flocks of birds. You don't have to have a confirmed case of bird flu. You just have to have suspicion. And this is, they're claiming that the bird flu is being spread by wild birds. So ducks, geese, you have these. But here's the thing is that a lot of most all commercial bird flocks are inside enclosed buildings.
Yep.
They don't actually get to see sunshine or,
interact with other birds.
Yeah, they're not. So where's the bird flu coming from? I know because this is what we do. That doesn't make any sense. And now they're saying that bird flu is jumping from birds to cows, and that now raw milk isn't that convenient? You know, that now all of a sudden
Yep, no
raw
doubt.
milk is a source for bird flu, and you should just don't drink that raw milk. You know, be safe. We're doing this for your safety. I don't know why it always seems to come back to people's safety. So, but it's just hysterical, and I ignore it. We still drink our raw milk and eat our eggs, and nobody's died here yet. And considering how many of us there are here, I think that's actually pretty good statistics.
Well, that's a great point of how many people actually drink raw milk and eat the fresh eggs.
Let's see.
And that don't die is a similar
Haven't died of bird
how
flu?
many Americans own guns and don't kill people. You know what I mean? But the left or the folks that are so against this are so the statists. That's actually what the better word for it, because there are folks on the right that also think that you can't buy raw milk or you shouldn't be drinking raw milk and it's unsafe. It's like, then don't do it. It's so easy.
Oh my goodness. This is horrifying. You know how many people have died around the world from bird flu? Around the world. 400.
Oh.
400 around the world globally. We need to cut down on all that illegal raw milk.
I know, right?
And kill 20 million birds a quarter to try and stop. Whatever.
Don't you know what? No, I don't even know.
For your safety. No, don't argue. It's for your safety.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yep.
Right. It's been an hour. We gotta cut it off.
Yeah. So if anybody has anything they want us specifically to talk about, I think our party email is info@lpmn.org. Email it there. Please call Matt Bliss. Tell him I said hi. Voice your support for Defend the Guard legislation. It's going across the ticker, his phone number, and his email address. And I don't want to have to run against him, but I absolutely will if he just wants to act like another boot of the state.
That's all he's got to do is have a committee hearing. I mean, honestly.
Just let it have a hearing.
Let it
Let the people decide.
Right?
That's what he was voted in to represent the people. Stop acting like a tool of the state. All right. And then I guess we will see everybody next week. And talk about more freedom stuff.
I'll be in Georgia next week, but I will be here. All right. Night, y'all.
I'll still be in cold Minnesota.